Hello to everybody. I'm really happy to greet all the participants of the International Conference on Science and Technology Research. My name is Liudmyla Gryzun, and I'm happy to represent here Simon Kuznets, Kharkiv National University of Economics of Kharkiv City, Ukraine. The topic of my keynote presentation today is the design of digital aids for students with autistic disorders, which is one of the focuses of my scientific activity. Today, during the presentation, I'm going to cover the issues of urgency of the research, to demonstrate the theoretical framework, demonstrate the theoretical approaches on the example of the design of a simulator for young ASD students speech boosting, and finally to cover results and prospects of our research. During the last decades, digital transformation has referred all aspects of education, including inclusive learning. Various surveys testify that one of the global problems of contemporary education in its digital age becomes finding the ways to facilitate the learning process of students with special needs based on technology support. Special focus of experts, however, has been obtained recently by the students with autistic spectrum disorders, as the number of the cases and variety of the disorder's modification has been growing for last few years. Thus, we deal with the global problem, and it's clear that software and learning aids market tries to respond to the same challenges of ASD students' social adaptation and academic training at different levels. There are a number of special centers all over the world which offer educational programs that focus on educating peer groups of ASD students and at the same time teaching pro-social communication strategies to enhance social inclusion and to reduce the students' isolation and bullying. However, it is also pointed out in the papers that the developed software is mostly of general educational purpose and do not cover specific cognitive needs of ASD students, one of which is poor speech and communication skills, what complicates the student's social adaptation. Thus, it's necessary to develop approaches to special digital aids design based on the psychological peculiarities of these students' training. One of the problems in this aspect is connected directly with Ukrainian localization of such digital aids and their development due to the exact needs of national situation in the lines of provision as the students' education and social adaptation. Coming from this evidence, the purpose of the work is to formulate and investigate the design of digital aids for ASD students and demonstrate them on the example of the development of an e-simulator for the students' speech encouragement. Theoretical background of the work is made by the analysis of the challenges of ASD students' educational practices and learning of potential benefits which might be given by the support for the training process of these students. Analysis of psychological and pedagogical sources allowed us to identify a number of major learning difficulties that are inherent in students with autistic disorders. According to the studies, the learning difficulties are caused by students' problems in three core spheres: that is social interaction, communication, and imagination. Generalized insufficient ability to learn, unawareness of dangerous situations, insufficient or opposite excessive reactivity, increased anxiety, low level of adaptation to new social and educational situations, and problems in establishing and maintaining relationships with other people, etc. In addition, experts highlight the special disorders of autistic students in the formation and development of their reading and speaking skills in both native and foreign languages. In particular, the students face the problems of insufficient vocabulary, misunderstanding of the general sense of the real content, fragmentary perception of oral speech, lack of motivation to communicate with other people, etc. On the other hand, the psychologists emphasize that speaking habits make the most essential basis for the student's socialization. Hence, this habits development has to be in the focus of all kinds of educational practices for as the students of all ages. It's also important to point out some as the students' strengths, which might be helpful in their teaching. In particular, they have a very well developed visual memory. They have considerable attention to details and a large amount of their mechanical memory. And these strengths must be used to facilitate the process of their learning. In this regard, experts recommend involving in learning process of such students visual aids and visualization tools, but it is emphasized the need for maximum organization and concentration of the students' visual field. In this context, the special attention must be paid to the digital support of the students' education. Researchers claim the advantages of technology-supported learning of the students. The result of several studies suggest that autistic students learn faster with the help of computer than with the help of verbal instructions. And researchers consider the reason for this not only in the fact that digital devices are able to hold students' attention longer, but also in the fact that it uses the principle of content visualization and encourages students to focus on special areas of the screen. Also, computers and digital aids provide students with multimedia content that enables to combine audio and graphical images to enrich and facilitate in such a way students' perception of text information, developing their reading and speech habits. In some research papers, it is pointed out that digital aid support is very promising for these students as they have significant kinship toward technology and the interaction with e-devices, digital means, etc. In fact, a technology in such a way functions as an interface between as the person and other people, providing necessary social and emotional distancing that helps decreasing their anxiety. Another educational technology's benefit is its facility to provide tailored and individually driven digital support for the students who usually have their own preferences for sensory outputs produced by software, as well as for the way of learning due to individual peculiarities of their disorder. As a result, due to the technology's advantages, the students obtain personalized and friendly one-to-one digital aid to master both social and academic skills. Thus, the set benefits of digital aids of as the students and their social and learning difficulties determine the variety of the aids and the core features of their design. As we said above, speaking habits, vocabulary boosting, and speech stimulation must be in focus of as the students learning on all the levels. In these connections, it's relevant to concentrate on the advantages of e-simulators as a special type of digital support in general, and look precisely at the potential of e-simulators focused exactly on as the students' speech and language boosting. They provide a trainee with a step-by-step workout of the learning content and allow them to obtain sustainable skills of proper actions, along with the parallel detection of their trainees' errors. For ASD students' speech boosting, it is important that e-simulators take into account the individual pace of students' work and enable his own managing and controlling the learning process. They also reduce the time of developing necessary skills and do this process more efficient due to the great number of and variety of training tasks, which raises the motivation of educational activity. Based on the analyzed needs of speech development of young students with autism and general requirements for e-simulators, it became possible to formulate the following specific requirements for e-simulators for language boosting, which can be used as a basis of their design. On the one hand, the software for ASD students must be helpful for them in terms of their common and individual learning challenges, has to decrease the level of the students' difficulties and hence to make smoother the process of their learning and social adaptation. On the other hand, any kind of digital aids for ASD students, including the said e-simulators for speech encouragement, must be cooperative in terms of the students' strong points, which are considered by the psychologists to be helpful in their teaching. Thus, in the process of development of an e-simulator for language boosting for ASD students, the set of recommendations have to be taken into consideration, which makes actually the theoretical result of our research. Firstly, it must have a concise, intuitively clear interface that must be the same for work in all modes of the simulator. It's recommended to use the same template to support unique basic design of the application. The application window should not contain too much information in one spot and must focus the student's attention on certain areas of the screen. Secondly, the set e-simulator has to provide visual reinforcement of verbal content. In addition, it's essential to provide opportunities for multiple repetitions of the proper exercises, which must be generated by the simulator due to the didactic purposes. At the same time, the application must have facilities for gradual complication of the tasks and moderate variety of exercises that would provide not only the vocabulary boosting, but also speech simulation. Finally, the e-simulator should guarantee high level of interaction with friendly feedback in learning situations of success and failure to increase motivation for speech encouragement. The formulated specific recommendations for the said e-simulators must be considered as features, all features which are necessary to be regarded in the process of the simulator's elaboration and determine their functionality in terms of the ASD students' didactic needs. Now we would like to cover them, these main features and recommendations in details on the example of the design of an e-simulator for young students, speech boosting in Ukrainian and in English, and such a development was undertaken by the students, the team of the students and professors of our university. Coming from the formulated recommendations, the main phases of the application design were outlined, which can be characterized as follows. At the first stage, the didactic functions of the application were specified due to the recommendations which were characterized above. The modes of its work were determined. Use cases diagram was built, which allowed to specify a potential user's behavior. At the next stage, the conceptual model of the subject area as the student's language encouragement with the help of e-simulator was created. On this stage of object-oriented design, the obtained conceptual model was used to determine application classes, objects, and proper links between them. Next phase was developed to the application interface design, coming from the requirements to e-simulators and use case diagrams and obtain conceptual model. Then the program realization of the e-simulator was undertaken in Java language within NetBeans environment. The necessary didactic content for all the modes of e-simulator was created in collaboration with the psychologists, ASD experts and primary school teachers. In particular, the variety of word sets with visual support was picked up for their mastering in accordance with the Ukrainian and English language curriculum. Phrases builder of the e-simulator was filled in with the proper content. The social stories, so-called digital narratives for work with then they are composed. As a result, all the proper components of the application were filled in with the elaborated learning content. The final stage of the application building, it was tested according to the didactic and technical requirements formulated above. Finally, the application was introduced into the practice of as the students' classroom and independent learning activities. And here I would like to get you familiar with functionality of the developed simulator, highlighting the features of their implementation. As a result of development, speech e-simulator, so-called Speak Up, or Rozmowlaika in Ukrainian, for young students with autism spectrum disorders, has a concise but intuitively clear interface that enables both educators and students to interact with it efficiently from the very beginning. In addition, the interface of the e-simulator offers to get familiar with the user, who is as the student, introducing his name, which immediately makes training personalized. After getting familiar and choosing the language, Ukrainian or English for training, by the user, application encourages the trainee to work in 3 main modes, which determine basic didactic functions of the application. The first core mode focuses the trainee on boosting his vocabulary while learning new words of native or foreign language along with their meanings. There are 2 main activities provided by the e-simulator. First, the student is enabled to look through the vocabulary of the lesson, along with the word's meaning and proper associative images. The activity encourages the student to learn the set of words with visual support in his own pace, returning to the same sets as many times as the trainee needs. The other activity in the vocabulary mode is devoted to the word simulation with estimating of the student attempts. In particular, in this mode, the e-simulator encourages students to recollect the learned vocabulary with immediate feedback and with a friendly processing of the situations of success and failure. Thus, the realized mode of the e-simulator helps as the students to get used to the situations of training with estimation and allows to decrease their anxiety. An important function which is realized in the e-simulator is opportunity for the trainee, with the help of the tutor, to edit existing vocabularies, to fill them with their own sets of words and save their own vocabulary in the files. This ensures the adaptability of the simulator to the needs and requests of the trainee, as he can work out the words which seem for exactly him to be useful and important. It's possible to predict the growth of the student's motivation to remember and use them. In this way, the student can make their learning the most comfortable and individual, as well as avoid the fear of testing their knowledge. The situation of learning, training, and control becomes familiar, safe, and psychologically comfortable for a trainee. The next mode, which is realized in the simulator, is aimed at progressing as the student's skills of composing sentences and phrases of various types. On this purpose, the simulator implements so-called phrase builder, which offers the student 2 types of speech learning activities. The first type focuses the student to build phrases according to the scheme and compare their own sentence with the sample. The second type offers to choose from the suggested members of the sentence correct members, as well as to build their own phrases and check their correctness. In the fourth mode of training, the simulator provides an opportunity for students to work with so-called social stories or digital narratives that have social and educative content and contribute to the effective adaptation of the students to society. The student is offered two main stages of processing the stories: reading the story, followed by the analysis via answering suggested questions, and reading the same text with pictures instead of some words that the student must recollect and enter or choose them from the suggested ones. At all of the simulator's modes, it is realized the facility of monitoring the correct answers with immediate feedback in the form of scored points displaying the results of training. The aid also efficiently handles situations of success and failure, which provides a favorable emotional background, creates a friendly atmosphere of training, and helps to increase motivation to practice language and speech skills. Thus, the depicted above functionality of the developed digital simulator for ASD students' language encouragement meets the core features of such aids design, which were grounded and formulated above during our theoretical part of research. So in conclusion and summing up our results, so we would emphasize the following. It is formulated essential peculiarities of the design of digital aids for ASD students. The distinguished features essential in the process of the digital aids design are demonstrated on the example of the development of an e-simulator for young ASD students' speech encouragement, which was developed in the process of students' project activity. The main stages of its design and functionality are characterized. Due to its functionality, the developed e-simulator seems to help to overcome a number of problems faced by young ASD students. The simulator promotes concentration of the attention and relies on increased visual memory of such students. It allows to boost significantly the vocabulary of both native and foreign language via multiple repetition, provides opportunities for gradual complication of tasks and the moderate variety of exercises, which allows not only the expansion of vocabulary, but memorizing words. Also, the speech simulation by concentrating their own phrases, processing social stories with visual support, and etc. So due to the results of our monitoring during the introducing our e-simulator into practice, we could conclude that the developed e-simulator helps to overcome a number of problems faced by young ASD students. In particular, they realized the option to repeat different but similar learning situations, studying at their own comfortable pace, help to reduce the students' anxiety, simplify the adaptation to unfamiliar tasks and situations. The function of editing by the student offered vocabularies ensures the adaptability of the simulator to the needs and requests of the trainee and enables the student to handle his own process of training. In fact, this function represents the developed e-simulator as a computer shell for design of individual simulators for ASD students' speech training. And using our developed e-simulator, we can fill it in with any content in order to be able to use it as a training aid for different other subjects also. As for the prospects of our research, we are getting ready to called empirical research on the students' communication skills assessment after using our Speak Up simulator. In fact, the communication skills assessment is performed usually by educators and clinicians and evaluates abilities, including a list of them and even more. And after analyzing all of these abilities, we prepared special assessment criteria for communication skills of our potential students who are going to be involved into empirical research. In particular, we distinguished special criteria like interaction, receptive vocabulary, expressive vocabulary, receptive and social language, articulation, and we also distinguished some special statistical categories from excellent to poor. For each of the criteria, we elaborated indicators which are going to say was these criteria achieved by student and in on each level, on excellent, very good, good, satisfactory, or poor. So our work, our research is in progress, and thank you for your attention. I'm ready to answer your questions.